What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy, MrBaboon. We back with another reaction. Top 20 greatest discoveries ever. I could say the big A word, but you guys are going to see it when I show you guys. Link will be down in the description. Go check it out. It's on Watch Mojo. It was uploaded September 4th, 2022. Not too long ago. Like a few days ago. So we're going to react to it. It doesn't have that many views and stuff. I haven't. I don't think. When was the last time I reacted to a Watch Mojo video? It's been a little bit. So we're reacting to it again. Another one of those videos. I'm excited. You know what I'm saying? I do enjoy those videos and stuff. They always got great. You know what I'm saying? We're just gonna jump into it. Make sure you guys do like, subscribe. If you guys are new, ring the bell so you guys never miss a video. Let's get into it.
People have debated the meaning and purpose of cave art.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 greatest archaeological discoveries ever.
To the public, she was simply Lucy. Scientists tried to piece together a picture of her life.
For this list, we're looking at the most amazing and important archaeological discoveries throughout human history. Have you visited any of these locations?
No,
let us know in the comments. Number 20. Göbekli Tepe. While this site was first noted in 1963, its importance wasn't recognized until decades later. In the mid-90s, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt realized that the stone slabs in the area were the tops of prehistoric megaliths and began excavating.
During the intensive dig, Schmidt and his team begin to unearth dozens of additional giant stone monoliths covered in intricate carvings, some weighing as much as 20 tons.
What he unearthed was a site of massive circular structures on stone pillars dating all the way back to the Neolithic period. The megaliths at Göbekli Tepe are the world's oldest, erected as early as 9500 BCE. No one really knows what the site was used for, but the carved reliefs provide glimpses into prehistoric religious practices.
Göbekli is a beautiful story. It was the first temple in the world, the birthplace of religion. It carries with it a certain mysticism that sparks the question, why?
What we do know is that Göbekli Tepe is one of the world's oldest human settlements, marking the transition from nomadic lifestyles to permanent habitation. Number 19. The oldest footprints in North America. In 2018, human footprints were found in British Columbia, Canada that dated back about 13,000 years. At the time, these were the oldest footprints discovered in North America. But just a few years later in 2021, that record was shattered.
The footprints show how humans coexisted with large, wild animals. Many are of children and reveal a story about everyday life and play.
Archaeologists working in New Mexico's White Sands National Park unearthed tracks that are between 21,000 and 23,000 years old. Not only does this almost double the record for oldest footprint in North America, it also completely restructures our understanding of early North American settlement.
The new footprint suggests humans came before the ice-blocked migration and came to the southwestern U.S. up to 23,000 years ago.
Prior to this game-changing discovery, most experts dated the continent's earliest habitation to between 11,000 and 13,000 years ago.
I wonder what the lane and everything.
Number 18. Richard III's grave.
Right?
This controversial figure ruled as King of England and Lord of Ireland until 1485, when he died in the Battle of Bosworth Field. With his death, the Wars of the Roses came to an end, and with it, the Middle Ages in England. His reign was later immortalized in Shakespeare's eponymous play.
As Shakespeare put it, my kingdom for a horse. But Richard had lost his steed in battle, and he fell dead on the ground. The last British king to die on the field of battle.
Following Richard III's death, his corpse was quickly buried and lost to time, until 2012. That year, researchers discovered the foundations of a medieval church underneath a modern parking lot, and it was there that they found the skeleton of Richard III.
But this is where he was discovered. His well-preserved skeleton was buried without a coffin or a shroud. A combination of markings on the bones and genetic analysis proved what the experts had hoped for.
After more than 5 centuries, we had finally found one of England's most notorious rulers. Number 17, Madaba map. In the late 19th century, construction began on a new Greek Orthodox church in Jordan's capital city of Madaba. While building the new structure, workers unearthed an ancient mosaic on the floor of the existing church.
Right at the center of it is this piece of showing Jerusalem. When we look at Jerusalem, you can see the walls going around.
This mosaic is now known as the Madaba map, and it shows parts of the Middle East. Dating to the 6th century, the map contains the oldest known depiction of both Jerusalem and the Holy Land. Not only that, but it was used extensively to locate sites mentioned in the Bible, and it is currently the oldest geographic floor mosaic in the world.
But also, if you look, you'll see other cities. We have Jericho here, we have Ascalon and Gaza represented here as well. Right at the top, you'll see the Dead Sea.
Number 16, the Serapeum of Alexandria. Serving as the greatest library of its age, the Library of Alexandria attracted scholars to Egypt and served as the ancient world's symbol of knowledge.
In its prime, the Library of Alexandria housed an unprecedented number of scrolls and attracted some of the Greek world's greatest minds.
It proved so popular that a so-called daughter library was later created called the Serapeum of Alexandria. The Serapeum lasted a bit longer than its famous father, and it was finally destroyed in the year 391. The site later became a Muslim cemetery. In the mid-1940s, the foundations of the Serapeum were discovered, and with it, one of the greatest centers of learning in human history was unearthed. Number 15, Knossos. Found on the Greek island of Crete, Knossos is often regarded as the oldest city in Europe. And that's saying something. Featuring a massive and world-renowned palace complex, Knossos was the primary capital of the ancient Minoan civilization, which inhabited both Crete and other Aegean islands.
However, very few know that around the palace there was a very extensive settlement, the largest urban center in Crete and mainland Greece.
The civilization prospered from about 3500 BCE to 1100 BCE, but it's believed that Knossos had been inhabited since the Neolithic period. An amateur archaeologist named Minos Kalokirinos discovered the location of Knossos in 1878, and the ancient site was unearthed by Sir Arthur Evans throughout much of the early 1900s.
Sir Arthur Evans began the first systematic investigation of the archaeological site and brought to light the so-called Palace of King Minos, the centre of a hitherto unknown civilization.
Number 14, Ötzi. Just imagine mountaineering through the Alps when you stumble across an ancient human corpse embedded in a glacier. This is exactly what happened to German tourists Helmut and Erika Zeeman in September of 1991.
Hikers Erika and Helmut Simon decided to take a shortcut down from the peak. As they passed a rocky gully, they made a grisly discovery.
They found what is now known as Ötzi the Iceman, a natural mummy dating to about 3230 BCE. Ötzi is the oldest natural mummy in European history, having died about 5,000 years before he was found preserved in ice. Regardless, the body is in remarkable condition, considering its age, and it's provided researchers an incredible glimpse into Copper Age Europeans and their lifestyles.
For sure, we want to know about how he died and why he died, and because it's also such a spectacular finding, this mummy, such an old mummy. It's the only one we have here. See,
that's crazy to me. Like, I like to go find something one day, but probably never.
This region of
Number 13, Mohenjo-Daro. A large human settlement dating to 2500 BCE. Mohenjo-Daro is one of the oldest cities in the world. Located in modern-day Pakistan, Mohenjo-Daro was one of the most ambitious cities of its day, complete with street grids, a sewage system, and many other ingenious feats of engineering.
The city of Mohenjo-Daro rivaled the ancient civilizations in Egypt and Mesopotamia. Archaeologists believe that over 35,000 people once occupied the city.
It was a remarkable settlement that showcased the creativity and boundless imagination of humanity. Unfortunately, Mohenjo-Daro was completely abandoned around 1900 BCE, as the local Indus civilization went into a decline. It remained lost to time until the 1920s, when an officer of the Archeological Survey of India located the ancient city. 60 years after its discovery, Mohenjo-Daro was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
So far, only 10% of the city has been unearthed. The authorities have stopped digging because they don't have the resources to preserve what has so far been discovered.
Number 12, the Antikythera mechanism.
If it hadn't been discovered when it was in 1901, no one would possibly believe that it could exist because it's so sophisticated.
This mysterious object was found submerged in Grecian waters at the turn of the 20th century, located inside an ancient shipwreck. The strange device was already 2,000 years old when it was found, and despite being eroded by the sea for all that time, it was still eventually identified as the world's oldest computer. Finally, another century after its discovery, and we now know definitively what it did. It was a device used to chart the positions of celestial bodies so that the ancient Greeks knew when eclipses would happen.
Some have argued that it's so complex the Greeks couldn't have made it at all. There are even some who say it must have been created by aliens.
It took a 3D reconstruction of the entire device in 2021 to get a better understanding of how it worked, though its purpose was suspected for decades. Number 11, Troy. For centuries, historians debated not only whether the Trojan War actually happened, but also whether the lost city of Troy ever existed at all.
It's a story that's been told and retold by poets and actors for thousands of years. But is it real? Did the city of Troy actually exist?
The Trojan War is the focus of one of ancient Greece's most famous epic poems, Homer's Iliad, and legendary Greek heroes like Achilles and Odysseus fought in it. But Troy's location became lost knowledge. Throughout the 1800s, many researchers argued that Hisarlik, a site in western Turkey, was probably the elusive city.
Throughout the 20th century, scholars have become aware that we can't even be sure that Troy is indeed this Troy.
Finally, after decades of debate, experts came to a consensus that yes, Hisarlik is in all likelihood Troy. Unfortunately, we've yet to find conclusive evidence that the Trojan horse existed. But Troy's identification was hugely important for historians.
The idea that the Greeks would have in fact built a large wooden horse, hidden inside it and had it dragged inside of Troy is certainly possible, but it kind of strains your credulity a little bit that someone really could have pulled that off.
Number 10, Tutankhamun's tomb.
Tutankhamun's burial chamber is filled with magical decoration, but beside it, the rest of the tomb is left bare. This simple tomb is unlike any other royal tomb in the valley.
The Valley of the Kings is the final resting place of many ancient Egyptian pharaohs, but throughout its history, a number of tombs have fallen victim to grave robbers.
This is the Egyptian red list of the missing pieces. We are already missing from museums and sites and everywhere in Egypt, and we give it to Interpol to stop any piece of them if they're moving from a country to a country.
Tutankhamun's tomb was different. Remarkably, though grave robbers did break in shortly after it was initially sealed up, most of its contents were intact when archaeologists found it in 1922.
Over 5,000 priceless artifacts, including golden statues. In the burial chamber, the pharaoh's mummy, wearing a golden death mask, was placed inside a coffin made of more than 200 pounds of solid gold.
Today, Tutankhamun's gilded mask makes him arguably the most famous and recognizable pharaoh in history. Considering Tutankhamun only reigned for about 10 years and died between the young ages of 18 and 19, that is quite the legacy.
This modest tomb was jammed full of all the royal possessions that were usually buried with a king.
It can't have been meant to be all jumbled up like that. People are just trying to cram as much stuff as possible.
Along with the mask, the tomb also contained a statue of Anubis, the god of the dead, and a dagger made from a fallen meteor. Number 9, Sutton Hoo. One of the most remarkable medieval graves anywhere in Europe was excavated in England in 1939.
Well, I'd say it's the biggest archaeological discovery
ever made in this country. So it is an immense responsibility to look after the sites, but also really what we're trying to do at Sutton Hoo is tell more people about it.
The owner of an estate in Suffolk, Edith Pretty, enlisted some archaeologists to find out what was underneath the burial mounds on her property. What they uncovered was astounding. So much so that the story inspired a 2021 film, The Dig.
That's a ship.
How do you mean a ship?
Well, that's a ship that's been buried in the mound.
Why would anyone want to bury a ship?
Well, I expect because that's a grave.
The most promising mound contained an entire long ship and innumerable artifacts, including pieces of armor made of gold and other Anglo-Saxon relics. Though it's one of the UK's most impressive archaeological discoveries, it's still not entirely clear whose grave it actually is.
Shortly after the inquest, which ruled that all the items found in the Sutton Hoo burial mound lawfully belonged to Edith Pretty, Pretty donated the entire collection to the British Museum. It's among the most valuable donations of its kind, and the collection itself remains at the heart of the museum.
Most evidence suggests it was the final resting place of a famous East Anglian king, Redwald, who ruled the region around 1400 years ago. Number 8. Aldovai Gorge. This isn't one specific archaeological location, but an entire locality housing some of the most important works relating to paleoanthropology, or the study of early humans. Found in the northeast corner of Tanzania, Aldovai Gorge has been invaluable in our understanding of early human culture and evolution.
Telling us is that there's a lot out there to be found, that we actually don't have the whole story of human evolution.
Researchers have unearthed ancient stone tools and hominid fossils. Occupation of the site is believed to stretch back nearly 2 million years, when it was inhabited by an archaic human species called Homo habilis.
And then these other things, which are generally termed Homo habilis after the species that Louis Leakey named at Aldovai in 1960.
Without Aldovai Gorge and its riches of archaeological material, our understanding of archaic humans would be much more limited. Number 7. The Cave of Altamira. If you're interested in early humanity, then you cannot go wrong with the Cave of Altamira.
This is the Museum of Altamira. It was built right next to the cave, where the original cave paintings dating back to the Paleolithic era were discovered. The original cave has been closed to preserve its archaeologically important remains.
Archaeology has uncovered many notable caves relating to ancient humanity, including Lascaux and another in the small Spanish town of Ardales. But nothing beats Altamira. Also located in Spain, this cave houses numerous prehistoric drawings and paintings, most of which depict local animals. After the site was discovered in 1868, the suggestion that the paintings were prehistoric was met with some skepticism, not only owing to the nature of the drawings, but also because no other prehistoric cave art was known to exist in Europe.
We're also interested in whether or not human symbolic behavior coincides, for example, with language, or whether human symbolic behavior in fact dates right back to the point at which we start looking like humans.
But the research eventually prevailed, and it's now believed that the paintings are around 36,000 years old. Number 6. The Terracotta Army. This is one of the most significant archaeological finds of all time, and it was discovered completely by accident.
And they find some pieces of the pottery. They also find the head of the terracotta warriors, and the archaeological team came to this area and they start to dig.
The Terracotta Army was first uncovered in the Shanxi province of western China by a group of farmers in the 1970s. The army resides within a tomb constructed over 2,200 years ago as the resting place of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, which is why it's so elaborate.
He was its first emperor, and his empire became his fortress, protected by a great wall. The legend says he was a tyrant, driven mad by power.
In the parts we've been able to excavate, there are over 8,000 soldiers made out of clay, there to guard Emperor Qin in the afterlife.
Row upon row of warriors, hundreds of secret subterranean soldiers,
all life-sized and built to be immortal.
But even more astonishing is the fact that the entire necropolis is believed to be almost 40 square miles in size, with most of the site hidden in vaults that aren't yet accessible. Number 5. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Written mostly in Hebrew, the Dead Sea Scrolls are some of the oldest Abrahamic religious texts in existence.
A young shepherd is herding goats in Qumran near the Dead Sea. Passing a cave, he throws a stone to scare a wayward animal back to the flock, and hears something shatter. Curious, he enters the cavern and discovers 10 clay jars holding 7 ancient scrolls.
They were discovered in a cave in the West Bank in the mid-1940s, but in the decades since, we've continually found more and more scrolls ready to be translated in a handful of additional caves.
The scrolls themselves talk of the battles of the great teacher of righteousness who led the community into the wilderness with the teacher of lies.
The scrolls are so significant because they've allowed historians and theologians to chart the development of the Bible much more accurately, and provided new information about the dawn of Christianity thousands of years ago, as well as the history of Judaism and the Holy Land.
Now we're becoming much more attuned to how very Jewish Jesus was, very devout Jew, and that's the heart of Christianity.
They are unquantifiably important, and still have a lot to teach us.
There's really no way of predicting what the next discovery is going to be or what it's going to come from. I think it's fairly reasonable to guess there.
Are you thinking about accepting crypto payments for your business? As a Crypto.com,
there will be something. Surely there will be something.
Number 4. Pompeii. Among the most famous ruins in the world, Pompeii was destroyed by a devastating eruption from Mount Vesuvius in the year 79 AD. The village was left forgotten until the 16th century, over 1,500 years later, because it had been completely buried underneath volcanic ash.
It took just 18 hours for Pompeii to be buried under millions of tons of volcanic ash and pumice. An entire living city wiped out.
But that ash kept Pompeii largely intact when it was finally excavated, with people frozen in place where they died during the disaster.
The point is we have a great opportunity here because we have a snapshot of the society. We might have slaves, we might have upper class people, and we can find out if there have been big differences.
Today, it's one of Italy's most popular tourist attractions and a tremendous source of Roman history. As tragic as the story is, Pompeii has taught us more about Roman life than many other ancient archaeology sites anywhere in the world.
Pompeii has regained its pride and continues to share its stories with people from all around the world.
Number 3. The Library of Ashurbanipal. Famous writer H.G. Wells once called the Library of Ashurbanipal, quote, the most precious source of historical material in the world. And he wasn't far off. English historian and traveler Austin Henry Layard found the ancient library in the remains of a palace in 1849.
While the actual building had been destroyed, many of the library's old texts were still intact, though most were in fragments.
It consisted of over 30,000 clay tablets, which provided an enormous wealth of information relating to ancient civilizations of the Middle East. The tablets date to the 7th century BCE. Perhaps the greatest find within the Library of Ashurbanipal was the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is widely considered to be the oldest piece of literature in human history.
Inscribed on crumbling clay tablets was a 4,000-year-old story, so riveting, the first person to translate it started stripping from excitement.
Number 2. Lucy. Several famous fossils have revolutionized our view of early hominins. Discovered in 1924 in South Africa, the Tong child, a skull of an Australopithecus africanus, was described as, quote, the missing link between ape and human, although anthropologists initially resisted the idea that humans had evolved in Africa.
Some scientists even went so far as to suggest it was perhaps just a baby gorilla and that the Tong child would bear little out on anything other than the origins of apes themselves.
Eclipsing the Tong child in renown is Lucy, the 3.2 million-year-old remains of an Australopithecus afarensis. Unearthed in 1974 in Ethiopia, she was named after the Beatles song Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which the research team was playing on repeat. The completeness of her remains gave us much more information on the evolution of bipedalism and brain size.
We now have 400 specimens of Lucy's species Australopithecus afarensis, named after the Afar region. And we know that there are very large individuals, which were males, and the smaller ones are certainly females.
In 1994, Artie, the skeleton of an Ardipithecus ramidus, thought to be 4.4 million years old, was also found in Ethiopia, becoming the most complete early hominid specimen ever discovered.
The pelvis reconstruction has confirmed that Ardipithecus was bipedal, a major step forward in the investigation.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Rosetta Stone. For centuries, archaeologists had absolutely no idea how to decipher ancient Egypt's complex hieroglyphics.
Jean-Francois Champollion in France and Thomas Young in Britain both believed that the Rosetta Stone, as it was called, held the key to deciphering hieroglyphs. But the Rosetta Stone did not yield its secrets easily.
Without a starting point, they were unable to understand the inscriptions on Egyptian monuments and artifacts. But that all changed with the discovery of the long-lost Rosetta Stone in 1799, an enormous slab of stone inscribed with everything needed to start translating.
This seemingly insignificant rock would forever change our understanding of mankind's past.
The text it contained wasn't actually all that interesting, but the same passage was written 3 times in different languages, and one of those languages was Ancient Greek.
The Greek section told of the tablet having the same information written in all 3. While Greek was easily understood, several obstacles stood in the way of using it to translate the 2 Egyptian scripts.
By using the Greek, which is still widely understood by researchers, we were able to decipher the hieroglyphics and unlock the secrets of ancient Egyptian writing. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from Watch Mode.
That's crazy though. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments down below. Check out the description. I have the link for the video that we just watched down in the description. Make sure you guys do like the video, subscribe if you guys are new, ring the bell, share the video if you guys did enjoy. You know what I'm saying. I will see you guys in the next one. Positivity is key, motivation is key, happiness is key. You guys be safe. I'll see you guys in the next reaction video or a stream video that a past stream that out. You know what I mean. I'll see you guys in the next one.